Today is a good day. Why? Because we're training the lower body and I'm going to be bringing you through the full workout so you can know exactly what I do to grow my legs. From glutes, hamstrings, squats, whatnot, I'm going to be showing you the full workout of my new training program. Not only that, but what I want to go through in this video is actually give you my top tips on how to see the best progress from the gym. If you're somebody that's been already going to the gym but struggling to see results, or if you're somebody that hasn't got into the gym but want to, these tips are gonna help you prevent making the mistakes that I did. And believe me, I made so many freaking mistakes at the start of my fitness journey. So these are the tips that I wish I had when I was starting out a couple of years ago. And these are the methods that actually helped me to see the best outcomes from my own training. Before we're gonna get changed and get ready to go and train, I do want to update you on my progress. So I'm gonna insert my progress pictures here. We have the starting point there, and then we have our check-in on week 4. So there has been small changes. I am happy with how things are going, given the fact that I am taking a pretty flexible approach to this whole dieting. I'm absolutely not being strict with myself, and as I talked about in my previous 2 videos, I'm just making small habit changes in order to drop body fat and maintain as much muscle as possible. But what I do want to touch on, a very important point when it comes to check-ins, is actually having that reflection at the end of each week. And what I promised myself is that no matter how the week went, if I wasn't happy with like how I adhered to the targets, how my diet was, how my training was, how my steps or like overall activity, I'm still gonna check in with myself. I'm still gonna take those progress pictures. And there was a week there, I think it was week 3, where it was like day 1 of my period that I was taking progress pictures. And believe me, the last thing I wanted to do was get those progress pictures taken, because I'm like, obviously not feeling great in my body. But the whole point of check-ins and taking progress pictures is just to collect data, see if changes are happening. Doesn't have to be week on week, and they're rarely going to be week on week changes, but it's about like the whole process. And when it comes to checking in, it's so much more than just taking physical and quantifiable measures. It's identifying what's working so you can double down on that, and then identifying the challenges and obstacles you face or the downfalls so that you can put in place tactics and strategies. So I decided to do that every week regardless, and it allows me to identify what is working. For example, I didn't have issues with hitting my gym sessions, with getting my cardio in, with getting my steps done. But I did find myself like, when I work from home more, I tend to snack a lot more because food is just readily available. So perhaps a tool that I can apply is to work more like outside of home. Go into like co-working places, cafes, and work from there. And actually it benefits my work better because I tend to be more productive when I am working from like cafes and co-working spaces. So it's a win-win really. But if I hadn't identified that, then I wouldn't be able to find a solution. Another thing that I identified was like my sleep was pretty crap. That affected my recovery, which meant I was a lot more sore after my workouts, and also my adherence to nutrition. I found myself more hungry, craving more like salty, sugary, high carb foods. So by identifying that, by checking with myself at the end of the week, I'm like, aha, okay, this is an area to be focused on this week, because it's gonna have a positive impact on like the intensity that I can train at, my adherence to nutrition, like my energy and motivation levels. So this is why check-ins are so important, whether you're checking in with your coach or with yourself. I really would advise that if you're on a fitness journey. If you're not with the coach, I would advise you to be with the coach. It was the best decision I have made along my whole journey throughout the years, because like you might know all the information. I'm not doubting that. There's a lot of content available there to help you with your journey. But what working with a coach will allow you is take away all the guesswork. You're literally given direction and a plan to follow, and you have to execute. And sometimes we might know what to do, but we still fail to do it. We still fail to keep it up because the self-doubt, self-sabotage come into place, and we tend to switch things up way too soon. We think it's not working and we blame the methods and we change them up without giving ourselves enough time to allow the body to adapt to this new thing that we're doing, build those good habits. So working with the coach and having the support, having that accountability will really help you along your journey, alongside actually having a plan to follow. But this is where we are currently. We're moving on to week 5 of this like fat loss phase, which I'm going to be continuing till the end of the year. I will be going on like taking a cruise week or 2 cruise weeks. And what I mean by that is I was going to take a deload because I felt like my body was just being pushed to like its limits throughout the last 4 weeks of this new training plan. And I'm not an advocate for deloads as such, like planned deloads, because I feel deloads just naturally happen depending on what's going on in your life. And I am going to Australia in a week, which is going to be my unplanned or unintended deload that I be taking. I still have my goals in mind, but I knew this trip was coming up, and I knew this trip was like in the middle of me like starting this fat loss phase. So I'm happy to go into a cruise week, which means I'm not going to be disappointed if I don't see fat loss results or if I don't see body composition changes, but I do still want to maintain those habits that I'm doing right now and take a more loose approach. I'm not sure how well I'm going to be able to execute my training program because I want to prioritize the experience. I'm still going to be super active. I'm going visiting my friend Jasmine, who is also an online coach, and we hope to kind of like do different styles of training, maybe boxing, kickboxing, tennis, different classes. Like Sydney has a huge, like massive, like fitness industry and is super health focused. I'm sure there's going to be options, but yeah, I'm going to continue now to be as consistent as possible leading up to my trip to Australia, and then going into 2 weeks of like maintenance or cruise weeks as such. So there is my update on how things are looking, the direction I'm going in. Now it's time to get ready and get training and smash this leg workout. Starting the workout with dynamic stretches, getting the blood flowing into the muscles and increasing body temperature, and then moving into deficit reverse lunges. And I've been loving doing them on the Smith machine. The Smith machine adds stability, which allows me to really focus on the mind to muscle connection in my legs and glutes. I'm standing here on a stepper, which adds a deficit and increases the range of motion. I'll leave the details of the workout in the description below in case you do want to try it. But the second exercise I've done was a glute drive using this machine. It's really handy setup and I can really load it. I do tend to switch between this and hip thrust. So I have a day where I do normal barbell hip thrust and a day where I use the glute drive. The glute drive allows me to like really squeeze the glutes at the top, so I'm focusing more on like a calf glute bridge movement as opposed to a full hip thrust. And I'm really pushing for the last 2 reps. We then have the step ups, and I'm using a bench and a squat rack to set this up. If you really want to target your glutes, because I know a lot of people say they feel this exercise in their quads, then you want to keep the shin as straight as possible and then drive your opposite leg back, leaning slightly forward, but you want most of the work to be done with the leg that's on the bench. The other one is there purely for support and stability. We then have a dumbbell sumo squat, so a slightly wider stance than shoulder width, toes slightly pointing outwards. And with here, I'm not focusing on going super heavy, but rather on really firing up the muscles and the mind to muscle connection. So I'm keeping constant tension on my glutes throughout the whole movement and really trying to slow it down, give it a little pause even at the bottom. The last lower body exercise I'm doing are standing abductors. I've been loving this machine. They really fire up my glutes and abductors, and I'm aiming to hit almost failure at each set. So I really want to feel those legs shaking by the end of this workout. And what I've recently started doing was to add some core exercises at the end of my lower body, as my hips are already fairly warmed up. So the choice of exercise are plate sit-ups, and I'm just driving the plate up above my head and really focusing on keeping that core tight. You know what, there's actually nothing more frustrating than already going to the gym and not seeing great results from it, because you're already putting your time and effort into it. Like, you could have been doing 100 other things, but you're deciding to come into the gym and go, and you're just not getting anywhere. I honestly know how you feel. Like, it's just so frustrating. And this is why I want to share my top tips on how to actually make good progress from the gym. There are 6 specific tips that I want to share you that are gonna just like transform your progress in the gym. If you actually like listen and take them in and apply to your own training, just watch your training transform, because I know it just changed the game for me. First of all, you actually need a plan, a structured personal plan that you know exactly what you're doing in the gym. You cannot just be going when you feel like it, doing what exercises you feel like it, switching up your workouts every other week, because this is the reason why you cannot see progress. You're not giving yourself enough time in order for your muscles and body to adapt to the stress and stimulus you're putting yourself through. And this is the mistake I made. I heard it somewhere online that, oh, I need to shock my muscle in order to see better results, where that is simply not the case. You need to apply stress to your body through weight training, resisted training, through a progressive plan, which is outlined for you for a number of weeks. And the minimum amount of time I would say that you need to stick to a plan is 6 weeks. But if you're still progressing on week 7, 8, 10, 12, then I will keep going. The only time I would switch things up is maybe to add variety. I wouldn't even go flipping the whole program around, but maybe just change some like isolation or accessory movements to keep things like exciting, I suppose, which is okay to do. But by all means, you just need a plan to follow if you actually want to progress in a gym. The best thing that I've done for me at the start of my journey was actually getting a coach who designed a specific program for me based on my expertise, or like my level of fitness, I guess, my goals, my preferences, and I could progress at my own pace. And this is what I do with the girls coming in to transform with MG as well. Every single client that comes to me, we look at their previous training history. It's absolutely okay if they've 0 previous training history, but we want to make sure that they get a specific plan, so they have structure, they have directions, it's suited to their goals, it's something that they enjoy. And like having a plan is honestly one of my top tips in order for you to see results from the gym. If you're doing random things, you're gonna get random results. And I suppose following on from point 1, my tip 2 is that you need to apply progressive overload. So progressive overload is just a fancy science term used in the fitness industry, doing more over time. So progressive overload can come in many forms. You can increase the weight that you're lifting, you can increase the number of reps, you can increase the number of sets, you can decrease your rest periods, you can improve your form and technique, you can apply tempo, so like slowing down your movement and applying mind to muscle connection. So there's a variety of ways that you can use progressive overload, but our bodies are super smart and they're quick to adapt. So if you're going into the gym doing the same thing over and over again, and I mean like it's okay to do the same exercises over and over again, like I mentioned, you need a structured plan, but if you're doing the same weight, the same reps, the same amount of sets, resting for the same amount of period for 6 weeks, you're not going to progress. Your body is going to adapt, so you need to apply more stress to your body. The way you're going to apply more stress to your body is by doing more, so challenging yourself. And like I mentioned, you can challenge yourself in various ways. You can increase the weight that you're lifting. So let's take an example, okay, just to paint a picture so you're super clear on how progressive overload works. Let's say you have a dumbbell sumo squat in your program. You need to do 3 sets for 8 reps. So you pick up a 10 kg dumbbell. On week 1, you do set 1 for 10 reps, set 2 for 10 reps, set 3 for 10 reps. In week 2, you have options. Pick up a 12.5 dumbbell and do 3 sets for 10 reps. Or on week 2, you could go in, still pick up that 10 kg dumbbell, but do 3 sets for 12 reps, for example. You could also do an additional set. So instead of doing 3 sets by 10 reps, you would do 4 sets by 10 reps. And that's how progressive overload works. And this is something that is going to transform your training. If you go in and think of like doing more over time, then you're gonna keep progressing and you're not gonna stall, you're not gonna plateau. Tip number 3 for seeing progress in the gym is food. Oh boy. If I only knew when I started out how important food is. 80% of the results we get come from our nutrition. And I used to be somebody that used to strive to be small and skinny all the time. I would find myself constantly dieting and then being frustrated. Why am I not changing my body composition? I was honestly just depriving myself of the food that my muscles needed in order to grow. And like, we cannot change, we cannot grow, put on muscle if we're in this constant like deficit and deprivation state. And I know that for some of us there might be that fear of eating more in case we're going to gain a lot of weight, and I was there as well. I had a massive fear and anxiety around introducing more food, but getting out of the mindset that smaller is better is the best thing that you can do, believe me, because food is so important. What happens when we train is that like we're breaking down muscle fibers. Our muscles grow bigger and stronger as they recover, and they need that energy. They need that fuel coming from extra food. And I get a lot of clients that come to me with the goal of looking toned. So let's break down what toned actually is, because it's not a real thing. Again, it's just like progressive overload is like a term used in the fitness industry. But in order to get toned, the whole like process behind it is first of all, building muscle, and B, then dropping down to a low enough body fat percentage so the muscle that you have built is like more visible, you're looking more defined. What does that mean? That in order to look toned, you actually have to build the muscle in the first place. If you're constantly depriving and starving yourself and eating fuck all calories, you're not going to build the muscle in the first place, which means you're never actually going to look toned. So food is a big one. Tip 4 is protein, which is like a follow-on from my point on food. You want to ensure that you're eating enough protein. Protein is the building blocks for almost every process in our body. It's responsible for building muscle, maintaining muscle, for repair, recovery, like our skin and nails. There's protein, amino acids in there. And also it's the most satiating out of like the 3 macronutrients. So when we look at food, it's made up of 3 macronutrients: carbs, fats, and protein. Eating protein keeps us fuller for longer. If your goal is to perhaps like drop body fat, then if you include a high protein diet or include high protein foods in your diet, you're gonna be more satiated, more food. This is gonna minimize snacking, and is also going to prevent you from like potentially overeating. Win-win, really, right? But when you're trying to see progress from the gym, it's important that you eat a high protein diet. And what's a high protein diet? The minimum recommendation is, for women anyway, 0.8 gram per kg of body weight per day. But that's only like a minimum recommendation. It's not optimal, and not for women that are resistant training and looking to like, you know, put on some like lean muscle mass. So I would say aim for 1.8 to 2 grams of protein per kg of body weight per day. Start there. It's like a range to aim for. And even if you're not going down the tracking route, if you think of having 3 meals which are high in protein and 1 snack or 1 like protein shake, that should get you somewhere in around there. Obviously it's going to depend on the person's mass and how much they weigh, but even if you start off by thinking, right, let me have 3 meals like breakfast, lunch, dinner, and a protein snack, then that'd be a good starting point. Then you can go down the route of like using tracking apps such as MyFitnessPal to see whether you're hitting enough. But protein is going to be key for you to build that muscle. My 5th tip on seeing progress from the gym is patience. And I hate to be the person to be like, you just gotta be patient and wait for the results to come. But honestly, building muscle is a lengthy process, and not a lot of people talk about it because we often see like these transformation pictures of people being able to build like amazing glutes. When I look back on my own transformation picture, where I literally had a flat pancake ass to like building a peach and actually building some sort of like shape to my bum, it's taken years, you know. And it's an important mindset to get yourself into, because otherwise you're just going to be so frustrated if you're not seeing results instantaneously. And we actually live in this age now where we want results yesterday. It's all like, our bodies are not Amazon and they don't deliver results next day. We gotta just put in the work and actually practice delayed gratification. And you know, it's hard. It is hard because we do want things right away, but it honestly does take time, but it's so worth it. And building muscle is not only for our aesthetic reasons, but as we age, it's one of the most important things we can do for our own health. So actually having patience, and in order to practice patience, I would encourage you to shift your focus away from solely just tracking like body measurements, because compared to fat loss, when you're on your fat loss journey, it's easier to notice changes like every 2 weeks maybe or so, but like the progress can be like quicker. When it comes to muscle building, those changes are not as visible as quickly, and because you have to think in terms of months and years, try and focus on the achievements that aren't to do with appearance, such as focusing on like your strength and performance in the gym. So I found it really helpful to set myself strength goals and performance goals, such as like being able to do one full push-up, then being able to do X amount of push-ups in a row without assistance, squatting my body weight on like a barbell squat, hip thrusting twice my body weight. Setting yourself those goals is actually going to keep you motivated and keep you on track while practicing that delayed gratification of getting the aesthetic goals that you might be aiming for. And my last tip on seeing progress from the gym, and not the least important, because actually as you mature in your training, you will realize how pivotal this point and this tip is, and that is less is more. So we often think that more is better. Surely if I do more, I'm gonna get better results. So I thought like doing more gym sessions is gonna get me better results from the gym. Doing more exercises in a workout is gonna get me better results. I was wrong. I learned it the hard way. You can learn on my mistakes, okay? But essentially, what works is better. Not more, but better. Better is better, okay? So what I'm referring to here is that you only need a few exercises in your workout. So instead of going in and doing like 10, 11, 12, where you're half-arsing them, you will get far better results picking 5 to 6 exercises, a mixture of some compound and isolation, and actually training with intent and intensity. When you have a shitload of exercises in your workout, like you're not gonna have the energy to be able to train with the same intensity as if you only decided to do 5 or 6. And you've seen in my lower body workout that I literally only have a handful of exercises there, and that allows me to really put a lot of effort into each of my sets. All right guys, these are my 6 top tips on seeing the best progress from the gym. Please let me know how you found it. Apply it to your own training, because they have been transformative for me, and I'm sure they're going to be for you as well. That's all from me for today, and I shall see you in